Well, I'm really excited to dive into this conversation about creativity, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. It's something that I study religiously. It's almost an obsession.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think I study it more than I create, just because I'm so fascinated by how different creative minds work, and if there is, it's not necessarily a secret to unlock, but if a deeper understanding of creativity aids in being creative and unlocking that. I think it all comes down to wanting to unlock whatever creative potential you have inside you or inside me. That's kind of where it stems from. And I do think that there's a self-awareness that comes from it as well, which I think is so important. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for diving into this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So I'll ask the hardest question first. This is how I start off every podcast, is how do you describe yourself as a creative?
I don't know. An idea chaser would probably be the best way to describe myself. Actually, and oddly, just the other day, for the first time ever, I wrote down every idea ever for projects that I've done. And it was a fun exercise and fun stroll down memory lane. But I've pursued about I think the total was around 70 different ideas and projects over the last 20 years. So,
and those 70 have come to fruition. Those are 70 things that you've completed.
Yeah, I mean, that I brought to life. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how idea flow. How do you prioritize honoring your ideas, and then once you get an idea that sticks and that you are feeling passionate about or feeling drawn to, how do you follow that through and keep pulling that thread to make the idea come to life and come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, they're all so different. Like, I'm on the journey right now building a hotel from scratch, which has been an 8-year process. Whereas some of the ideas, are like you can do them in a week and to bring to fruition. So it really depends on the idea and the level of passion for it. Some projects I've flamed out halfway through because the passion wasn't there. But yeah, I found that ideas initially hit usually in times of quiet, not looking at my phone or a screen, not talking to people, but, trying to go to sleep at night, standing in the shower, driving alone. Like, it's all those moments of quiet time that boredom, boredom is such a good thing to allow just creativity to strike. But I found that it's crucial for me to write it down immediately, document it immediately. And I'm a geek about that stuff. Like, I now have like 3 different apps I use depending on the idea. And but even just like, not even separate from ideas, even just like thoughts that are attached to a project. Like, even if I don't document the thought immediately, it's just gone. Like, the other day I was in a conversation and I was having ideas during the conversation, but I didn't want to be rude and get out my phone and type them out. And sure enough, they never came back to me. Like, it was like, dang it, I should have written those down.
Has it always been that way for you? Has it always been, if you don't document it or capture it in the moment, it is fleeting? Or is that just
Well, I think when I was younger, I didn't understand how important those moments were. Now I feel like they're our greatest asset as humans, is those moments of, true creative inspiration. And so most people have no clue that that's their greatest asset. But I've learned that it's mine. And so now I'm like, ears perk up and everything stops and, I have to absorb the moment. Whereas in the past, I don't know that I've always written down ideas and written down stuff. Like, I use Evernote religiously. I've got over 6,000, notes in Evernote that are just thoughts and just, So yeah, I'm pretty good about it, but I'm definitely now more in tune with that, when the moment hits.
And what was that process for becoming aware of that, within yourself, knowing which ideas, I need to write this down, Is it something that you feel? Is it a something that you're drawn to?
Yeah, I mean, I just write them. I write everything down, even the dumb stuff. Like, it doesn't matter if it's good or it's bad. I just have to get it out because I know, like I said, I've just learned that that's my greatest, asset in life. Is just the create, and I think that's the greatest asset for everybody, every creative, every person. So the process, like I write it down, and if it's really good, I'll share it with my wife, who's always dead honest, and she'll shoot painfully straight usually. But then when it's a good idea that she believes in, she'll also like tell me, and but sometimes I realize that she's not in my industry, and so I'll, like she'll be the first to admit, I don't know, I don't get it, and I'm the same with her in her industry. She's in real estate, and I don't understand real estate. And so if it's outside of her realm, I'll go and bounce it off of industry colleagues who will have a better understanding.
So there's a reliance of a community then, for these ideas. So you're almost checking them and checking their validity or potential.
Exactly. I've created a 7-step process for bringing projects to life, and step 4 of the process is literally that. It's okay, now you've gotten through the concept and the vision. Now, is it still a good idea? And that's where I go and bounce it off people.
Nice.
There's some really bad ideas that I've bounced off people. Yeah.
So
embarrassingly so.
I want to go back to space and giving yourself time for silence. And do you have a habitual routine for that? Or is that something that, do you intentionally build that into your day and have a set time every day that is your alone and silence and thought and ideation time?
No, I wish I did. That would be amazing. But I have 4 children. So the idea of alone time and quiet time is not even remotely feasible. I love my kids, but yeah, the mornings are nothing but pure chaos. I actually get up and I go work out at 6:30 to 7:30, and then I get home and it's the dad scramble for about an hour and a half to get kids off to school and showered and fed and all, and myself fed and myself showered, and then I come straight to work. And thankfully, in the studio, it is I'm my own boss and I can do whatever I want. But as soon as I get to the studio, then I'm all in on emails and, putting out fires. And so, and then evenings, it's back to family mode. So there's not a lot of purposeful quiet time. I wish there was, but I do find that working out, even though I'm in a class and I'm training with a bunch of people, you are still kind of in your own mindset. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just lifting weights and getting my ass kicked. But at the same time, that's not really when ideas hit. I just still need that time. Like I feel so much better working out and feel healthier. Plus, I have a disease, and so I'm also training to fight against my disease. So, but I found that all of that, everything we're talking about, helps the overall creativity. Just being more present, feeling more strong, feeling healthier, having less brain fog, being less forgetful. All that stuff. It plays into it.
So are there any other specific things when it comes to, a routine or what you do to foster those aspects of your creative work? Are there any other habits or, because it sounds like there's structure. It sounds like when you come in, you go and work out and then you know that there's dad mode and then you come into the studio and then within that studio time, it's this creative space. Is there anything that you've done to foster, productive work during the day?
I really wanted to have a great answer for you, but there's just not. I mean, because I'm so ADD, every week is so different for me. Sometimes I'm a photographer. Yesterday, all day, I was a hotelier, in hotel meetings all day. This summer, I definitely went through a heavy fine art phase where I was painting and drawing and doing all this stuff. Sometimes I'm a speaker. I've started a podcast. I am all over the place, and it sounds fun, but there's a lot of downsides to that. And so I definitely need more of a discipline and once I'm at the studio for sure.
Mm-hmm. So how do you juggle all of that?
It just depends on the week and the day and what takes priority and where my head's at. Like right now, I mean, August and September of this year, 2020, were the dark night of the soul. I mean, I was just like,
I remember us talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was in no man's land. I just was unmotivated. I mean, I think obviously 2020 has been that for the world. But that was finally my 2020 moment of like, what am I doing? I hate all my work, hate my photos, I hate my art. I don't have any ideas. The hotel is never going to happen. It wasn't a depression. I don't feel like I was depressed. It was just a nothingness, just like, I got nothing. And I walk into work and just like, I got nothing. And then shockingly, November has been just this wave of the opposite. And there's so many artistic quotes and authors who've written about that. Like after the total funk or depression can come the greatest wave of, creativity. And that's been the case for me. So I just had all these ideas start firing again, and the hotel started up again. Like suddenly everything is making sense, not just right now, but my whole career. And it's an exciting time.
During that dark couple months, was there anything that you did that you think helped for you to be ready when the tide turned and you were able to feel inspired again?
I don't know. Not that I can think of. I was, reading the dumpster fire of politics on Twitter every day. And, that's just not good for anybody. In contributing to the conversation, tweeting, not a ton, but too much for me. If I could have unfollowed myself, I would have. Yeah, and then no, I don't know of anything that I did to help myself. In fact, all I can think of things that I did to further hurt myself. Yeah.
I remember reading something that you had posted right after we got to work together on some photos, and you had this quote that was always beginning, and I think that struck a chord with, because I showed that to a few people. I think that struck a chord with a few of my creative friends in a way that it took away the power of needing to get to a final destination with what you're doing. And especially in context to what you were talking about, coming from this dark place, a lot of people, I feel I would have, and probably have before, have gotten just, run over by those months and moments, and those moments that we bring fear and doubt and we bring those things into our mindset and our mentality, where there's not much positivity. They can be really detrimental. So what are some ways that you fight against that? What are some ways that you try to not give fear real estate in your head?
I don't know, just keep going, keep creating. Like this, this month, for the first time in my life, which is embarrassing to admit, I'm just reading a ton, we've been talking about these books we've been reading. Steven Pressfield, obviously, actually his book, The War of Art, that was a book that people told me to read for literally 10 years. I was like, oh, that sounds great. I have to read this sometime. And I don't know what it was, but I finally did read it like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, this is why everybody was saying to read it. It just blew me away. I mean, the resistance is so real in my life. I have so many different levels of resistance. It can be my calendar. It can be my kids. It can be the voices of doubt and insecurity and fear. It can be... There's a line that he said in that book that always sticks with me, and it's a terrible comparison, the worst comparison, but he was talking about how Hitler was actually a brilliant artist, a brilliant painter, but he was so afraid of the canvas, a blank canvas. It was easier for him to start World War II than it was to face a blank canvas. And even though I don't, like I said, it's a terrible comparison, but I so get what he was saying, because like it's easier for me to go and I'm going to start a global hotel chain. It's easier for me to go start a nonprofit and launch a new business than it is for me to just sit and create art. It's such a weird thing. But I did, like this summer I dove in, and all the stuff around us a lot of it was created this summer. But then it was like, once I exited it, I was just out, and I hated everything I touched. And I don't. My wife the other day, she has this massive house she just sold, multi-million-dollar house. And she was like, as part of the closing gift, I want to give them one of your paintings. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And she was like, why? I was like, I don't like them. I want to throw them all in the trash. And she's like, why would you, if you're going to throw them away, then why not give them away? Like, because if I'm going to give it away and it's going to be on somebody's wall, I want to be proud of what they put in their house. Mm-hmm. And if I can't like it and be proud of it, then I don't want them to have it.
Right. Yeah.
It literally belongs in a trash can. Yeah, it's a weird thing.
So before we're gonna dive a little deeper into these super depressing, conversation that we've had so far. But I think it's healthy. I do. I think that not enough people talk about failure, and not enough people talk about fear and doubt and how to continue through it. Would you be willing to share a failure of yours, a major failure that for a lot of people could have stopped them in their tracks, and you found a way to learn from it and rebound and then continue to produce work?
Yeah, of course. Been so many. Two come to mind. We spent 4 years building an app, a social network. I mean, it was really actually quite brilliant. It was called OK Do This, and we built it in the beginning years of Instagram as well. And it really was I had the idea actually before Instagram existed. But it was similar in that I had a feed, but the main difference was you had a photo feed, and then you had a separate feed of text like tweets, but it was all ideas. And so I could post an idea, and we call the ideas do's because you want others to do your thing. And so I had posted like 400 ideas, and then you can follow and click on the idea and see all the other people that had done it. And fascinating app. I mean, we launched and it blew up in the App Store. When we debuted in number 3 in the total App Store, like above Angry Birds and Duck Dynasty. I mean, it was on day 1. And then we were getting calls right away to buy it. I mean, it was just this crazy rush of excitement and like, this is easy. You put an app out and it goes top of the App Store, and Silicon Valley calls and they want to buy it. But then ultimately, like, long story, it failed with all the other, attempted social networks. And again, to this day, I'm like, it would still actually be really successful. But yeah, it failed. And that was a big disappointment and years of work, that just kind of went by the wayside. And then when we first launched the Purpose Hotel Kickstarter, our goal was $2 million, but it only we hit like $750,000, which is still a lot of money. But if you don't hit your goal, you get $0. And so, and I had put all of my weight and leverage into that, hitting up every celebrity I know, every influencer, every friend that had a celebrity friend, like just put all the weight, all the effort. And for that to fail so publicly was embarrassing. But we immediately relaunched it and still hit the same goal and got all the money. And, so we just said, screw that, we're going to do it again. Because we did even though we didn't raise the money the first time, it blew up in terms of the idea, like the world. I mean, it went viral. Like people cried upon hearing about the idea. I mean, it was just a really successful idea, even though the money wasn't there. So anyway, we did the Kickstarter twice in a row, and the second one was successful.
So what did you learn from those, temporary defeats?
I mean, they're both so different. With OK Do This, I mean, there was just so much learning about technology and leadership and team building and app development, obviously, ton about. And I had already been a graphic designer, web designer for years, so I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to branding and design and all that stuff. But yeah, I just learned a lot about investors, and I mean, so much that I learned in the app development goes into what we're doing on the hotel front. So that's what I always say, like, never be afraid to fail, because you're still going to learn a ton. Like, it's still going to inform the next thing you try. So yeah, and then on the hotel front, gosh, I'm learning all the time. It's like there's no words to describe. As a guy who's brought 70 ideas to life, there's no comparison to the hotel, like at all. I mean, we're talking 8 years of work, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, especially on my business partner side, trying to bring this thing to life. So I'll never be able to convey how complicated it is to do this from scratch. I mean, it's insane. So I'm always learning. I was on calls yesterday where I don't even have a clue what the words mean that they're saying. Like, it's so intense on that. But that's not my role. Like, I'm on the call with my business partner. He's the left brain, I'm the right brain, and it's all a left brain call. So everything they're saying, I'm like, cool, bro. But it's all investment language, and I've learned enough. But again, they all know that that's not my role. They know I'm the idea and vision guy. So
I think that there's something to say about that too, though. I mean, find someone who you can work with that complements you.
Oh, without a doubt. Michael is he was my manager for 15 years. Now we're partners on the hotel front. And yeah, it's actually a massive process of everything I do is having somebody to, even if they're faking it, as your manager, somebody that can help with legal and contracts and invoicing and all the stuff that creatives generally suck at. So I've always had those people in my life.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the hotel. Lots of stuff has happened in the past month here with development and progress forward. You want to speak a little bit to what the Purpose Hotel is, and then any new and exciting news you have?
Yeah. So I was on a photo shoot in Los Angeles in 2012 at the very, very peak of my career, living in LA, a big Hollywood agent, shooting celebrities. And I had a shoot with with Fisco, the iPhone app. So those guys are good friends of mine, and this is in the beginning of their journey, which is crazy. But we were doing a shoot, and I was walking through a hotel to meet them. And as I'm walking through the hotel by myself, it was just insane, the idea that hit in that moment, because it wasn't just the seed of an idea. It was the full idea, the marketing, the name, the tagline, the individual concepts. So I was walking through the hallway, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if every room had a story in a hotel, because the lonely traveler could connect to the lonely. I was like, oh, child, every room could sponsor a child and tell their story. And then as I entered the room, I looked at my room key. I was like, oh, it'd be cool if the room key told a story. And I thought of my friend Caitlin, who founded the Giving Keys. And then when I opened the door, it felt like in the movies where you see everything transform in front of you. Because I was like, oh, internet could fight human trafficking, the blankets and the soaps and the art. Art could come from all my friends that are humanitarian artists. And, the magazine could be the good newspaper that Brandon Harvey does. And it was just in that moment, my 15 years of relationship suddenly made sense, because I've always spoken at these events where all these other nonprofits are. And I knew friends with Scott Harrison at Charity Water. And I was like, oh, and there could be a well in the lobby where you pump water and learn about Charity Water. And it was just this, I couldn't download it fast enough. And I was like, it should be called the Purpose Hotel. And the tagline should be change the world in your sleep. All of that was probably within 2 minutes. Wow. And I was just kind of stunned, literally. And it's crazy because I say that, ideas are God-given, because it's not like that day I was burnt out and I was looking for a new career. I wasn't seeking a new idea, especially hospitality and hotel. Actually, I hated hotels. I thought they were so boring. So for an idea to hit that clearly and quickly and overwhelmingly, it's like, this is not me. This is not my doing. Like it was almost like somebody just saying, do this. Here's how to do it. Here's the vision. Here's the concepts, and it's all yours. And I was just like, okay. Yeah. And so then I sat in 3 years, fear of it, did nothing. Well, actually, I did try to pursue it immediately, but I was pursuing it with a guy in LA that owned hotels, and I could just tell right away that he wasn't the guy for a long list of reasons. But then after I left him, I was like, no, I got nothing. I was 35 at the time and freelance photographer. Like, how do you go from being a freelance photographer to building $115 million, hotel?
Yeah.
So that left me dead in my tracks for about 3 years. And then 2015, it's like, this idea isn't going anywhere. It's still as present as it ever was. And so I met with Michael, my manager at the time, and I was like, this has to happen. And so we decided to start with the people. And it took about a year of work to really wrap our heads around it and build the Kickstarter and shoot the videos and write the script and build the branding, the design, get the 3D renderings going. A year to just get the Kickstarter ready. And then it failed. And then we did it again. And then it took another year to ship out all those, perks and rewards. Because we had 5,000 backers, and then each of them, one person wants a T-shirt and a coffee table. The next person wanted the robe, and the next person wanted the pencil, and the next person wanted, and so you have to go through and ship all that stuff and have it made. And so, yeah, it was about 2 years just in the Kickstarter. And then that sent us into all the development starting in 2017. So,
and what's the status now?
The status now is we have secured land. I'm trying to think of what I can and can't say publicly. We have secured land, which is another mind-blowing story. I guess I can share it because I wrote about it in my book, and the book is public. So this is a story I'll share the rest of my life. So 2017 in December, we had been pursuing a property in 12 South, really boutique little hotel. And but for a number of reasons, it didn't work out. So the night it fell through, I was so bummed, back to the drawing board, starting over. And the next morning, I showed up to Help Portrait, which is another idea that I launched in 2008 that became a literal global movement that is still going on today. But I showed up to church to set up all the photo gear by myself. And in walked Santa Claus with his full Santa suit on. And I was like, hey, Santa, how you doing? And he's like, good, man, I heard you're building something special. I was like, well, I'm trying, but our land fell through last night. So we're back to the drawing board. So we sat down and talked about it for a few minutes. And I told him the full vision. It's going to be a hotel where everything in the building helps people in need. So it's like a social good hotel. Everything has a purpose, and gave him the full rundown. And he was just like, again, white beard. He is actually in Santa.
Like real beard?
Real beard. He grows it for 9 months just for Christmas. He's just a saint. He's an amazing man. And so anyway, he goes, man, I love the idea. He said, oddly enough, since the 1940s, my family has owned 4 acres downtown Nashville, and our 4 acres now sit literally right next to the brand new convention center.
Oh my gosh.
4 acres. We're talking blocks, downtown Nashville, and you know how insane it is down there.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, we already have it zoned for a 20-story hotel. And it's like, would you have any interest in building your hotel at our property? And I was just like, I had, chills all the way down my body. And I was
that's not a coincidence. It just doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. And so the rest of the day, as we're doing our photo shoot for the homeless, which is also just so beautiful that here we are serving the homeless together, for years. This is like our 7th or 8th year doing it together.
So his heart was already there.
Yeah. His heart was already there. But between shoots, I'm like going over and I'm trying to poke holes in it. I'm like, surely there's something that doesn't add up here. But there was nothing. Like it was all green lights. And so long story short, yeah, that's where the hotel is going on Santa's property.
Downtown heart of Nashville, right next to the convention center.
Right next to the convention center. Yeah.
What an amazing story. That's just...
Yeah, I will literally tell that for the rest of my life. And it was so amazing the moment. Got my phone here. I'll show you. I have to show you the picture. Because thankfully, being a photographer, I recognize the enormity of the moment. And I was like, dude, this is insane. I said, can we take a picture together? Would that be weird? Because I just want to document right now. And he was like, sure. And somebody had walked in by that time. And so there we are.
You and Santa talking about hotels.
The moment he told me he owned 4 acres downtown Nashville. And yeah, so
that's amazing.
It is amazing.
So is there anything that you want to direct people to in order to help support or spread the word about the Purpose Hotel before we continue to talk about creativity?
Yeah, I mean, obviously then go to thepurposehotel.com, follow us at The Purpose Hotel. And for the first time ever, I'm finally able to legally announce that we're actually seeking investors. There's all kinds of language that you can or can't say, but now with the new model we're doing, I can actually say that publicly, that if people do want to actually invest, not Kickstarter invest, but for real investors, that's where we're at right now, seeking investors. And
they can find info on that at thepurposehotel.com?
Yeah, if they just figured out how to email me, I'd send them a link, yeah. So yeah, it's getting real. It's super exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up this interview, I think it would be really good to talk about, or for the last third of this interview, to talk about advice you might have for creatives who are just starting out.
Yeah.
And I always like to pose this question. You're in a time machine and you go back in time and pick a year in your life and you open the door and completely screw up the space-time continuum and look yourself in the eye. What advice do you give yourself?
I mean, it's weird because I would kind of tell myself to do what I actually did because I'm now launching a new idea platform to teach people a process. I think so many creatives think I need to get the job offering my services to the client. I need to get a job being a graphic designer. I need to get a job, find clients to do illustrations for, find weddings to shoot, find, all kinds of things to shoot as photographers. And the list goes on, looking for client work. But I really think the magic in establishing yourself is doing personal projects. And too many times people undervalue that and they underestimate what that can do. And I've realized in my own career, that's actually what made me who I am, is all the personal projects, not the client work. Nobody's going to remember my services. At the end of my life, people are going to be like, dude, that shoot you did for that band was amazing. It's going to be, and even now when I see people, they're like, I love what you did in Haiti. I love what you're doing with the hotel. I love what you did in Rwanda. We listen to Bono or Coldplay or Bruno Mars or any artist because of what they have to say on that record. They're putting their work out there, their heart out there. We wouldn't care about Bono if he had spent his career writing jingles for Walmarts and Targets, offering his client services. We love musicians because of what they have to say. And I think the same should apply to all artists. What do you have to say? How do you bring that into a literal project? And I've actually made a system, a 7-step framework on how to do that I'm really excited about.
And are you going to be releasing the system, or is there place where people can access it?
Yes. And so I've made a webinar, which has got to be one of the worst words in the English dictionary, right there next to moist. Moist and webinar have got to be the worst words. And so, yeah, I've got a free webinar that breaks down the entire process of. So the 7 steps to a personal project are. Step 1 is and step 1 is really if you are clueless, you have no idea. Like I'm calling it liminal society. Liminal means state of transition. So you could be in between job loss before your next job, after divorce, before whatever's next, pre and post COVID. There's all these different ways at looking at state of transition. But let's say you're clueless and don't know where to begin. Like choose a topic. Think about what you're passionate about, or think about what's trending, where's people's attention, because the more relevant it is and relatable it is from the beginning, you're going to have the more success. So this year, the culture was talking about Black Lives Matter. They were talking about obviously politics, obviously COVID-19. But even before that, Nashville had a tornado, could have been tornadoes. So choose your topic, figure out where people's minds are. But then 2, what can you bring to that topic? What's your talent? What's your gift? You do a photo project, write a poem, make a record, whatever it is. But make sure in step 2 that you're passionate about it. Because if you're not, you will flame out. And just trust me, based on experience, you will flame out if you're not passionate. But step 3 is what's the vision? Why is it unique? Why is it different? Why should people check out your project when there's a gazillion other things to check out? It's got to have that unique vision. Step 4 is when you stop and say, okay, is it wise? Is it a good idea? Is that the right time? It's when you go and bounce it off your people. Step 5 gets into planning and pre-production and figuring out the timing, the strategy, the crew, the cast, the tools, the gear, the budget, all that stuff. Step 6 is the act of doing it. It's the execution, which gets into branding and design and quality and making sure you put your 10,000 hours in, all that stuff. And step 7 is deep dive into the launch. Social media, email list, publicists, newsletters. There's a million different ways to launch things. It's not just put it on Instagram.
Right.
It is that, but there's also how do you put it on Instagram? Do you release it all at once? Do you release it over the course of weeks? There's lots of different things to talk about there. So yeah, and then if it doesn't work, again, it's comparison to a musician. If that album fails, I'll look at every project like an album. Do another album. Mm-hmm. What if the Beatles had stopped for album 1? They kept going, making however many records they ended up making. Every project should be looked at like a record. So you got to keep cranking them out.
Yeah. So it sounds like this 7-step process is less about tried and true, guaranteed way of doing things, and much more about this is how you discover what works for you. This is how you discover your voice. This is how you discover. Man, that's really valuable, especially for creatives just starting, or creatives who feel like they're in a rut or have tried multiple albums. Maybe taking a look at this process gives them some new insight on, this is where I may have gone wrong in the past. Let's see if this works.
Exactly. And the fun thing about this is I've invented a scoreboard. So you literally go through and you judge each step on 1 through 10.
So it's trackable too.
Yeah. So then you add up your score. Perfect score is a 70 because that's 7 steps at a score of 10. So I've literally gone through my 70 projects and I've rated them, each of them. My highest score on any project was a 63. And I think my lowest score so far is a 35, and so it is cool because I can go back and man, the vision was there. It was perfect vision, but I had no passion for it. Or the vision was there, but the quality sucked. Or the vision was there, the passion was there, the quality was amazing, but we launched it so poorly. A lot more people could have known about that had we done it right. Or it's we launched it, but we shouldn't have because the quality sucked. There's a lot of different ways of picking it apart based on the 7 steps, or it can be like you missed step 1 and like nobody related or connected to it. Like nobody cared about your random, I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like your project about a really specific flower. There aren't a lot of people that care about that flower, so there's all kinds of different ways to breaking it down based on the 7 steps.
Sounds like it's a do-it-yourself mentorship, Is that something that you feel connected to, is the idea of mentoring younger creatives or all creatives?
I love it. I've actually been, the round 1 of Liminal that I launched in September was exactly that. It was mentoring. And I didn't know what I would think, but it has been a blast because I've literally been doing Zoom calls with photographers around the world, actually. And I am just as fascinated with helping them as I am thinking through my own projects,
Do you think that that's an important part of creativity, is sharing and continuing on the education and the skills that you learned with another generation?
For sure. Yeah. I learned fairly early on that community is way more valuable than competition. Because I used to be, I think in my early 20s, I was like that competitive, didn't want to share my secrets because I was so brilliant, whatever it was. But thankfully, I phased out of that pretty quickly and learned that, like, screw that. Like, I want to share my secrets. I want to learn from others. And, like, who cares? No one is ever going to be me, and I'm never going to be you. And no matter how many secrets we share with each other, all our relationships are different, our paths are different, our focus and vision and commitment, all those things are different. Like, it doesn't matter, just put it out there. And I've only seen benefits from doing that.
Yeah, what's that quote? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Is that it?
Yeah.
I don't know who said that, but yeah, it sounds like I've always been that way. So I grew up in a community of winter sports athletes. And in that community, more than any other community that I've been a part of, it's a supportive community. Like, you're never angry that somebody else lands a trick. I think everyone's just happy to get off the mountain that day. Not injured and healthy, and to be able to experience that. And that's one thing that I can relate to as well, is a lot of times within creativity, there's not that overwhelming support or desire to form that tribe and try to go through things together.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I think that's so important. So, so where can they find the 7 steps and everything that's going to come along with it?
Yeah, by the time this releases, I think I will be shouting it from the rooftops. There should be a link in all my bios, to watch the webinar, because it really is going to be. It's fun because in the past, like when I used Instagram, I'm just posting because I feel like I'm supposed to, because everyone is. Like, I'm trying to think of something brilliant to say with each post, which I hate. But now that I have these 7 steps, everything has a reason and context. Every project I've ever done, whether it failed or succeeded, now there's such quality context around it. So I'll be constantly talking about this process, and it also all ties into the hotel perfectly, which is a whole different conversation. But yeah, it's everything's making sense all of a sudden.
So keep your eyes out. By the time this airs, we'll include links. We'll include any resources that you can go and check this out. One last thing that I want to talk about really quick is this, because I think that being a artist and a hotelier and a designer and a husband and a father is already a lot. And then going and writing a book is a whole nother story. So this just came out, correct?
Yeah, about a year ago.
A year ago?
Yeah.
So it's still really fresh. Tell us a little bit about what's in there. If you want to hear more of your story.
Yeah. That is my life in that book. Honestly, that was all accidental too. I never was aiming to be an author or to tell my story. It started when my buddy John Acuff asked me to speak at his conference, and I was like, nope, I'm good. I was like, I'm not a speaker. I'm not trying to be a speaker. He was like, no, I think it'd be great. And so a couple weeks later, I was like, dude, I've got an idea. I could draw my talk. And so I literally illustrated like my life story in individual slides and then made a time lapse of the whole thing. And then I did that at his conference, and it was like a shocking reaction when I finished the talk. Like the whole crowd, jumped to their feet. People were crying. I was crying. It was like this just really surreal experience. I was like, I just hit a nerve somehow. And then that launched me as a speaker, because that turned into all kinds of other speaking gigs. And everywhere I do it, people are like, please put this online. And then I finally put it online. And then it was a 30-minute video, which is a long video. But it got, 2 million views.
Wow.
I think 50,000 people posted it to their timelines, which is insane. And then HarperCollins found out about it, and they're like, this needs to be a book. And so the whole thing was just like, again, the subtitle is Jumping into Fear. And then when I first told John, I was like, I'm not a speaker. I'm not trying to. I was like, all right, I'll just jump in and try some weird. And it connected. And so, yeah, there it is. It's a book.
Yeah. It's I am about halfway through it right now.
Nice.
So
it's awesome.
I've enjoyed it. But I think there's a running theme there. I think that what you just said, jumping into fear, with every pursuit or idea that you've followed, there's been almost this like defiance to fear. How do you go from being a graphic designer to a photographer to being willing to put a lot of that on pause, not quit, but put a lot of that on pause and redirect your focus to, something as big and as time consuming as, a hotel or like a giant idea like that?
Yeah.
What would you say to creatives who are feeling called to do something else?
Yeah. You just reminded me of a quote I heard last week that really helped me. People have often asked why I do so much, so prolific in my ideas, even though most of them are failures. But I heard a quote last week that made it all connect. And it's by this guy, Jack Butcher, who you would be obsessed with him because he's all about creativity. And he came up with this thing called the loop. And all that is a short little quote. It says, the more you execute, the more you fail. The more you fail, the less you care. The less you care, the more you execute. And so it's literally full circle back to executing. And it really connected with me because I don't care. I don't care about if people like it or if it works. I just care about it's an idea. It has to be done, and I'm going to do it. And oftentimes my lack of commitment is my failure in step 7, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I chase the idea. I really do. If the idea is there and I think it's interesting, I just go do it. And this year alone, I think has been my most productive year in terms of chasing ideas. I had a really good one this year when I did a photo business around the Enneagram. Nashville tornado happened, did a project around the tornado. Black Lives Matter happened, did a project around Black Lives Matter. Then I dove into painting. And then I did 12,000 photo shoots in 6 weeks virtually. 12,000 photo shoots. When the COVID first started and lockdown happened, I invented a new way to do virtual portraits and was obsessed with it. And met people in 39 countries who were projected in there onto my wall and freaking had a blast. And then I literally couldn't do it again. I was over it. In fact, I just got a job offer last week to shoot a really high-paying gig, like a 12-shoot gig for a company, and I told them no. I was like, I actually can't do another virtual portrait.
Wow.
That idea exited my body. So I don't know, man. I just keep chasing the ideas.
So your advice to young creatives who might care what people think?
Actually, it's funny you ask that because just last night I was thinking about this. There is something about being young that young people don't understand. That youth is the world is looking to the youth for innovation, and it's a better time than ever when you're young. I'm talking 18, 19, 20 through 25. Like there is a moment there where if you start doing stuff, you will be more celebrated in that moment than you will the rest of your life, because the culture just expects like Who's the new next thing? I mean, look at Billie Eilish, 15 years old when she blew up, and everybody was like, oh, she's the next genius. She's the new thing. And there's a quote that I've thought about a lot. It says, the youth is wasted on the young. And I think that quote is true because I was a product of that. I mean, I blew up when I was in my 20s. I really blew up. I was doing 6-figure photo shoots. I mean, a one-day photo shoot, 6-figure budgets, and I had no idea how to use light. It was like people were hiring me just because I was young and cool. Never mind the fact that I had no knowledge, just hire the guy because he's the next thing. But I just think that young people really need to figure that out. Like, this is your moment, like a really beautiful moment for you to blow up, and you just start doing stuff. And as soon as you start doing it, even if it sucks, people know you as a doer. And they start looking to you for the next thing, and they want to hire you. And I think that's key. And just be creating like crazy. Keep creating.
Keep creating.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have two kind of more fun questions to wrap things up. But before I ask those, is there anything else that you want to plug or mention, or that we can help foster?
I'm good.
All right. So the first one that I like to ask our guests is there a parable or a children's tale or a fictional character that you see yourself in? And why?
I think nothing is hitting me right away. I'm not a big reader till recently. Yeah, I'll have to come back to that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question is just, what skill do you wish you were proficient at, and why?
Oh, gosh. There's a lot of them. Lately, it's been writing. Definitely wish I was a good writer. This book, I have no problem singing. I partnered with a ghostwriter, to write the book. It was a cool process. We sat down for a week, and he went through my lifetime line, every idea I've ever had, every story, and I just verbalized all of it. And then he would submit a chapter at a time, and I was like, "Whoa, this really is like." I actually did say these things, but he was just better at, writing out the structures of the paragraphs and sentences. I hate writing. So I wish I was a good writer. There's filmmaking I've always had somewhat of an interest in, but I don't think I have the patience for it. I would hate the project by the time we finished.
Yeah.
I like to do things, quick. That's what I love about photo shoots. You do it one day, and the next day you can reinvent yourself.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the time. This has been a joy, a pleasure to get to talk with you about creativity. This is the first one we've gotten to do in a while because of COVID. So it was great to kick it off again. The last question that I always ask is there anything that you wish I would have asked you?
No, you've done a fantastic job. This is where my head is at right now. So it's been a fun discussion.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And, everyone make sure to check out Jeremy and his work and all of the projects that he's involved in. So
cool.
Thanks a lot.
Man. Yeah.